In 2024, Michael Jordan made over $350 million from Nike royalties. Think about that. A man who retired from basketball nearly 2 decades ago is still earning more from sneakers than any active NBA player makes on the court. Each year, around 60 rookies enter the NBA, and all of them face 2 battles. One is fought on the court against tough defenses and seasoned legends. The other, it's fought in boardrooms, where contracts are signed and deals are made. Because in today's NBA, a career isn't just defined by how many points you score or how many championships you win. It's defined by the shoes you wear. The NBA was not born in billion-dollar arenas. In 1946, when the Basketball Association of America was founded, the game was raw. The courts were dusty, the uniforms were plain, and the players were not celebrities. They were working men, playing for a paycheck in a sport that was still fighting for recognition against popular sports like boxing or baseball. So sponsorship was not the option. And no sponsors mean lack of equipment. Players wore plain canvas sneakers, often provided by Converse, not because of a contract, but because Converse was the only company which was making basketball shoes. The famous Chuck Taylor All-Star became the default shoe for nearly every player, and more or less, it became survival gear for all. But the seeds of sponsorship were there. Companies realized that if their logo was on the feet of the best players in America, their brand could become synonymous with victory. At first, it was subtle. Free gear, a handshake, or maybe a promise of exposure. Then came small deals. A few $100s here or free sneakers for a season. But the 2nd of March 1962 became a milestone in this journey. It was a small game in Hershey, Pennsylvania, when Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a single game, a record that has never been broken. His black and white image traveled across the country, into newspapers and living rooms. And while Chamberlain was the headline, Converse was the quiet co-star. Every kid who wanted to be like Wilt suddenly wanted the shoes he wore. It was marketing without commercials. And that's how Converse realized the power of these players. As the league entered the 1950s and 60s, Converse established itself as the first king of these sports. It was the beginning of a relationship between the NBA and the sneaker industry, a relationship that would eventually grow into one of the most profitable partnerships in sports history. By the late 1970s, Converse was already dominating the market, and nearly every NBA player laced up a pair of canvas sneakers. Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Bill Russell, legends who defined the sport were all wearing the same shoe. To fans in the stands, there was no separation between the game of basketball and the All-Stars. They weren't just footwear, they were the uniform of greatness. But there was a problem. These shoes weren't comfortable. They had no cushioning and not a good design. Players wore them because they had no choice. And that's how Adidas saw an opportunity. They introduced leather basketball shoes, sleeker and more supportive than Converse's canvas models. At the same time, their rival Puma also entered the market, signing Walt Clyde Frazier, the stylish New York Knicks star. Frazier didn't just wear Pumas, he wore custom suede models in bright colors, something that had never been done before. Suddenly, shoes weren't just equipment, they were statements. But even then, sneaker deals were modest. A shoe deal might mean a few $1,000s, a stack of free pairs, maybe some billboards in your hometown. Nothing more. The league was still growing, and sneakers were seen as a side business, not the main attraction. But still, something had shifted. Now, these companies were not just selling shoes, now they were selling aspiration. And when Nike entered the game, everything changed. When Nike joined the sneaker war, they were not big giants like today. It was a scrappy company out of Oregon, known as a small importer of Japanese running shoes. Due to its waffle sole, Nike has already built its reputation in track and field. But basketball? That was foreign territory. Nike's first attempts at basketball shoes were, in 1973, the Nike Blazer found its way onto NBA courts but never caught fire. The Nike Bruin came next. Low top, plain, and slightly better, but it barely scratched Converse's dominance. Nike's shoes weren't attached to the biggest stars, and in a league where style was beginning to matter as much as skill, Nike looked out of place. By the early 80s, Nike was bleeding money. The running boom was slowing down, and the basketball market was tough to crack. Adidas had Larry Bird, Converse had Magic Johnson, Puma had Clyde Frazier. Every giant star already seemed taken. But in 1984, something happened that would change not only Nike's future, but the entire NBA's. Michael Jordan was entering the league as a rookie. He had just led the University of North Carolina to a national championship and earned an Olympic gold medal. No one had signed him yet. So, for Nike, Jordan was the last hope. But there was a problem. Jordan himself wasn't even a Nike guy. He preferred Adidas. He wore them in college. He liked their style, their comfort, and their reputation on the streets. To him, Adidas was cool. Nike was the runner-up brand. But Sonny Vaccaro convinced Jordan by offering something Adidas and Converse never did: a signature shoe. Nike wasn't just signing Jordan to market their sneakers. They were building an entire brand around him. Jordan signed a $2.5 million deal over 5 years, plus royalties. At the time, this was unheard of. Most NBA players considered themselves lucky just to get free shoes and a modest check. A multi-million-dollar contract for a rookie was insane. And that's how Nike launched the first Air Jordan, a black and red sneaker that didn't just stand out, it broke the rules. The NBA had a uniform policy requiring mostly white shoes, and Jordan's bold black and red design violated it. So the league fined him $5,000 every time he wore them. Nike gladly paid the fines, and instead of hurting sales, they used this as their marketing campaign.
On September 15th, Nike created a revolutionary new basketball shoe. On October 18th, the NBA threw them out of the game. Fortunately, the NBA can't stop you from wearing them. Air Jordans from Nike.
And it worked. Kids wanted these shoes, not just because Jordan wore them, but because they represented rebellion, style, and greatness all at once. In the first year alone, Nike projected $3 million in Air Jordan sales. They made $126 million instead. That single deal rewrote the playbook. Athletes weren't just endorsers anymore. They were brands. Shoes weren't just equipment. They were status symbols. And Nike, they went from underdog to king of basketball. All because they bet on one rookie from North Carolina. From that moment, every young player entering the NBA knew their career wasn't just about points and rebounds. It was about marketability, contracts, and sneakers. The line between the court and the culture blurred forever. After Michael Jordan's success, sneaker companies have been chasing just one dream to find the next Jordan. A new legend whose name and game could sell millions of shoes and shape the future of the NBA. These companies play the role of kingmakers. A young player with a big deal gets instant visibility. Their highlights are pushed harder, and their story becomes a part of the NBA's narrative. In 2003, Nike gave a $90 million contract to LeBron James before he had even played a single NBA game. That deal was a declaration that he was the chosen one. From that moment, every game he played was tied to the image of a superstar in Nike shoes. And it worked. Today, LeBron's signature line is one of the most successful in history, second only to Jordan's. Similarly, in 2019, Zion Williamson signed a $75 million deal with Jordan Brand. Nike and Jordan plastered him across ads, built campaigns around him, and his highlights dominated social media, even when he played limited games due to injuries. The sneaker deal increased his visibility far beyond his time on the court. On the other side, players without major deals often don't get the same spotlight. A talented player might dominate on the court, but struggle to build the same exposure without sneaker deals. Nikola Jokic is a prime example of this. Despite being a two-time MVP, for the initial years he played without a signature shoe deal. And even while dominating the league, his commercial profile remained much smaller compared to other legends. And that's the reality of the modern NBA. Sneaker companies don't just sign players, they decide whose posters hang in kids' bedrooms, whose highlights play on repeat, and whose names become household brands. From Converse to Jordan, from LeBron to Steph Curry, shoe deals have never just been about basketball. They've been about identity and the future of the game itself. The ball may decide who wins the game, but the shoes decide who wins the legacy.